So just some information here I want to go over with you. The name Easter can be traced back to the name Astarte, the Syrian sun goddess known as the Queen of Heaven. At the end of the winter, the season changes because the earth tilts as it rotates on its axis. Spring arrives when the sun is over the equator on the first day of spring, known as the vernal equinox, which means spring equal night. Both day and night are equal, or an equal 12 hours long, which meant that the long winter nights were over and the sun again began to take control. This time was marked by celebrations and festivals to thank the pagan gods. These ancient rituals were fertility festivals observed in hopes that the gods would bless them with fertile flocks and fields. Animal and child sacrifices were offered to the gods to receive this favor. The Venerable Bede, an 8th century Christian historian, indicated that the name Easter came from the festival of Auster, also known as Auster and Ostera, the Anglo-Saxon goddess of spring and fertility. There was also a Teutonic or Germanic goddess known as Eoster, and who was the goddess of dawn and light, fertility, and spring. It is from these deities where the name Easter actually originates. The festival in her honor was held during the vernal equinox. So that's when it was held, just right around the same time. The English word Easter and the German Ostern came from the common origin Easter, Aster, Ostara, which the Norsemen meant the season of the rising or growing sun, the season of new birth. The word was used by our ancestors to designate the feast of new life in the spring. The word Easter then originally meant the celebration of the spring sun, which had its birth in the east and brought new life on earth. The symbolism was transferred to the supernatural meaning of our Easter to the new life of the risen Christ, the eternal and uncreated light. And the writings of Bede the Venerable have often been explained as the name of an Anglo-Saxon goddess, Eoster. And though no such goddess is known in the mythologies of the Germanic tribe, modern research has made it quite clear that St. Bede erroneously interpreted the name of the season as that of the goddess. See, there's different references that show the same things. The 11th edition of Encyclopedia Britannica's Easter article states, "There's no indication of the observance of the Easter festival in the New Testament or in the writings of the Apostolic Church Fathers." The ecclesiastical historian Socrates is quoted in the same article as he points out that neither the Lord nor his apostles enjoined the keeping of this day. He says the apostles had no thought of appointing festival days, but of promoting a life of blamelessness and piety. He attributes the observance of Easter by the church to the perpetuation of the old usage, just as many other customs have been established. Early church reformers such as Calvin and Knox protested strongly against Easter because of its pagan origins. Observance of the holiday was not widely celebrated in America until well after the Civil War. Easter has long been known as a pagan festival. America's founders knew this. A children's book about the holiday, Easter Parade, Welcome Sweet Springtime, by Steve Englehart, states, when the Puritans came to North America, they regarded the celebration of Easter and the celebration of Christmas with suspicion. They knew that pagans had celebrated the return of spring long before Christians celebrated Easter. For the 200 years of European life in North America, only a few states, mostly in the South, paid much attention to Easter. Easter first became an American tradition in the 1870s. And let's go to the egg. Now, why do you celebrate Easter with eggs and bunnies? The sacred symbol of rebirth and fertility among the Babylonians, Druids, Egyptians, and other pagan cultures, dyed eggs were used as sacred offerings during the pagan Easter season and were also used as symbols of the goddess Auster or Ishtar in various cultures. That comes from the Encyclopedia Britannica. During the rule of Caesar Augustus, Hyginus, an Egyptian who was the librarian at the Palatine Library in Rome, wrote, "An egg of a wondrous sight is said to have fallen from heaven into the river Euphrates. The fishes rolled it to the bank where the doves, having settled upon it and hatched it, out came Venus, who afterwards was called the Syrian goddess Astarte. Part of their worship to this goddess was the ritual involving the golden egg of Astarte. This is where we got the tradition of the Easter egg. Pope Gregory in 590 to 604 forbid the followers of the Catholic Church to eat eggs during Lent, so they became a treat at Easter. The people in Poland said that the Virgin Mary dyed eggs in various colors. I like this. The way they'll make up stories to justify this stuff. This is a great example. The people in Poland said that the Virgin Mary dyed eggs in various colors for Jesus to play with when he was a child. Sure she did. The Ukrainians incorporated blue dots in the design of their eggs, which they say represent the tears of Mary. They believe she took a basket of colored eggs to Pontius Pilate as a gift in hopes of convincing him to have mercy on Jesus. As she was making them, she began crying, and the tears fell on the shells, making the dots. The Orthodox of Romania dyed their eggs red because they believed Mary left a basket of eggs at the cross during the crucifixion to appease the soldiers so they would treat Jesus better. They were not accepted, and his blood dripped on them. In Russia, there is a main tradition that Mary Magdalene gave an egg to the Roman emperor as a symbol token of the resurrection of Jesus. Well, the egg was a mystical symbol to the pagan religions of Egypt, Japan, Greece, Persia, Phoenicia, India, and Babylon. And this comes from Albert Pike, an Illuminati member, in his Masonic treatise, Morals and Dogma. On page 496, he wrote, "The serpent entwined round the egg was a symbol common to the Indians, the Egyptians, and the Druids. It referred to the creation of the universe. A serpent with an egg in his mouth was a symbol of the universe, containing within itself the germ of all things that the sun develops. The property possessed by the serpent of casting its skin and apparently renewing its youth made it an emblem of eternity and immortality. Thus we see an indication that the egg initially represented serpent worship and, by extension, Satan worship." The Catholic Encyclopedia says the sponsors in some countries gave Easter eggs to their godchildren. Colored eggs were used by children at Easter in a sort of a game which consists of testing the strength of the shells. Both colored and uncolored eggs were used in some parts of the United States for this game, known as egg picking. Another practice was the egg rolling by children in the Easter Monday on the lawn of the White House. Let's look at the rabbit, a pagan symbol of fertility and new life. The 8th century English monk and scholar, related that the Teutonic goddess of spring and fertility, Easter, had the hare as her symbol. To begin with, it's actually the hare and not the rabbit, which is Easter's main character. What's the difference between a hare and a rabbit? Oh, yeah, just a hair difference in there, yeah. Because according to ancient tradition, the hare was symbolic representation for the moon, since they only came out at night to eat. Also, the Egyptian name for the hare was Un, which means open, because they're born with their eyes open, while the rabbits are not. Legend has it that the hare never blinks or closes its eyes. To some pagan cultures, the moon was the open-eyed watcher of the skies. The hare is associated with the goddess Ishtar and was the symbol of fertility because they reproduce so quickly. There's also the pagan tradition concerning a bird who wanted to be a rabbit, so the goddess Auster turned the bird into a rabbit who could still lay eggs. Well, there's where that came from. The rabbit was called Frou-Frou, hopping through the forest. Every spring during the festival dedicated to Auster, the rabbit laid beautiful colored eggs for the goddess. This tradition is exemplified in the Cadbury television commercial for the filled chocolate eggs. Another tradition which has been passed down comes from Germany. According to the legend, during a famine, a poor woman dyed some eggs and hid them in a nest as Easter presents for her children, or Easter presents for her children. When the children found the nest, a big rabbit leapt away. The story that the rabbit brought the eggs. The Easter rabbit lays the eggs, for which reason they are hidden in the nest or in a garden. The rabbit is a pagan symbol and has always been an emblem of fertility. That's a Catholic encyclopedia. Okay? One more thing I'd like to mention, if you're still unsure as to the rabbit being used as a method of sexual symbolism, then I suggest you ask, well, you can't ask Hugh after anymore, but when I did this PowerPoint 9 years ago, Hugh Hefner, the publisher of Playboy, asked why he uses a bunny as his main logo. So, Easter ham. Ham at Easter is also popular among Americans and Europeans because the pig was considered a symbol of luck in pre-Christian European culture. It comes from the Encyclopedia of Religion. The pig was sacred to the Greek goddess Demeter, the corn goddess, who represented fertility and abundance and is another counterpart of Astarte. In various depictions of her, she is either shown carrying or being accompanied by a pig. So the pigs were regularly sacrificed to her, and it was believed that by eating what they felt represented and embodied their goddess, they were in fact eating of her body. The prophet Isaiah warned of this in Isaiah 65, verses 3 through 5. Another source says that the pig represents the wild boar that killed Tammuz, and eating ham was done in remembrance of him. The tradition of the Easter ham evolved from the English tradition of eating a gammon of bacon to show their resentment and contempt for the Jewish custom of not eating pork. Isaiah 66, verse 17 says, "Those who sanctify and purify themselves to the gardens, following one in the center, who eat swine's flesh, detestable things, and mice, shall come to an end altogether, declares Yahweh." You eat those things, He will destroy. You will be annihilated. Any questions on Easter, eggs, Easter ham? Okay. Easter, it is not scriptural. But what about the resurrection? Why isn't the resurrection celebrated in Torah? It is, right? When? Feast of First Fruits. It is the first day of the week after the beginning of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And that's when he arose.